Supplementary A. Understanding the requirements of Clause 7 of ISO 15189:2022. Learning objectives. Following completion of this session, participants will be able to understand that the requirements of Clause 7 of the standard ISO 15189:2022, know what to do, have and look for in Clause 7 of the standard ISO 15189:2022. All text highlighted in red is the reference to the applicable clause of ISO 15189:2012. 7 Process Requirements 7.1 General, new. The laboratory shall identify potential risks to patient care in all activities, pre-examination, examination, and post-examination processes, assess these risks and mitigate them to the extent possible, communicate residual risk to users, monitor and evaluate the identified risks and effectiveness of the mitigation processes according to the potential harm to the patient, identify opportunities to improve patient care, develop a framework to manage these opportunities. What to do, have, and look for in 7.1. Risk Management Procedure, Risk Management Action Plan. 7 Process Requirements 7.2 Pre-examination Processes 5.4 Pre-examination Processes. 7.2.1 General 5.4.1 General. The laboratory have procedures for all pre-examination activities. The procedures shall be accessible to relevant personnel. 7 Process Requirements 7.2 Pre-examination Processes 5.4 Pre-examination Processes. 7.2.2 Laboratory Information for Patients and Users 5.4.2 Information for Patients and Users. The laboratory shall have appropriate, sufficiently detailed information available for its users and patients, provide laboratory users with a comprehensive understanding of the laboratory scope of activities and requirements, provide following information to its users and patients: the locations of the laboratory, operating hours and contact information, the procedures for requesting and the collection of samples, the scope of laboratory activities and time for expected availability of results, the availability of advisory services, requirements for patient consent, factors known to significantly impact the performance of the examination or the interpretation of the results, and the laboratory complaint process. 7 Process Requirements 7.2 Pre-examination Processes 5.4 Pre-examination Processes. 7.2.3 Requests for providing laboratory examinations 4.4.1 Establishment of service agreements. 7.2.3.1 General. The laboratory shall have a process to accept requests for examinations. The examination request shall provide sufficient information to ensure the following: clear traceability of the patient to the request and sample, identity and contact information of requester, examinations requested. 7 Process Requirements 7.2 Pre-examination Processes 5.4 Pre-examination Processes. 7.2.3 Requests for providing laboratory examinations 4.4.1 Establishment of service agreements. 7.2.3.1 General. Informed clinical and technical advice and interpretation can be provided. The format or medium of the examination request information must be acceptable to the user. The laboratory shall communicate with users or their representatives to clarify the user's request. 7 Process Requirements 7.2 Pre-examination Processes 5.4 Pre-examination Processes. 7.2.3.2 Oral Requests 5.4.3 Request Form Information. The laboratory have a procedure for managing oral requests for examinations. There shall have a provision of documented confirmation of the oral request to the laboratory within a given time. 7 Process Requirements 7.2 Pre-examination Processes 5.4 Pre-examination Processes. 7.2.4 Primary Sample Collection and Handling 5.4.4 Primary Sample Collection and Handling 7.2.4.1 General. The laboratory shall have procedures for the collection and handling of primary samples, make available to those responsible for sample collection, Clearly record deviation from the established collection. Assess and record the potential risk and impact on the patient outcome of acceptance or rejection of the sample. Communicate any risk and impact on the patient outcome to the appropriate personnel. Periodically review requirements for sample volume. Collection device and preservatives for all sample types. Define the frequency of the review. 7 process requirements, 7.2 pre-examination processes, 5.4 pre-examination processes. 7, 2 to 4 to 2 information for pre-collection activities, 5.4.4.2 instructions for pre-collection activities. The laboratory shall provide sufficiently detailed information and instructions to relevant personnel for pre-collection activities to ensure that the integrity of the sample is not compromised. The information and instructions for pre-collection activities shall include the following: preparation of the patient, instructions to caregivers, sample collectors, and patients, type and amount of the primary sample to be collected with descriptions of the containers and any necessary additives, and when relevant, the order of collecting samples, special timing of collection, where relevant, provision of clinical information relevant to or affecting sample collection, examination performance or result interpretation, e.g., history of administration of drugs, sample labeling for, clear identification of the patient, as well as source and site of sample and labeling when several samples from the same patient are to be collected, including multiple pieces of tissue or slides. The laboratory's criteria for acceptance and rejection of samples specific to the examinations requested. 7 process requirements, 7.2 pre-examination processes, 5.4 pre-examination processes. 7.2.4.3 patient consent, 5.4.4.1 general. The laboratory shall obtain the informed consent of the patient for all procedures carried out on the patient. A more detailed explanation shall be given in cases of special procedures, including more invasive procedures, or those with an increased risk of complications to the procedure. A recorded consent of the patient shall be taken in such cases. In emergency situations, the laboratory shall carry out necessary procedures without obtaining consent, in the patient's best interest. 7 process requirements, 7.2 pre-examination processes, 5.4 pre-examination processes. 5.4.4.2 instructions for pre-collection activities. The laboratory shall provide instructions to relevant personnel to ensure safe, accurate, and clinically appropriate sample collection and pre-examination storage, and shall cover the following: verification of the identity of the patient from whom a primary sample is collected, verification and, when relevant, recording that the patient meets pre-examination requirements, e.g., fasting status, medication status, sample collection at predetermined time or time intervals, collection of primary samples, with descriptions of the primary sample containers and any necessary additives, as well as the order of sample collection, where relevant. Labeling of primary samples in a manner that provides an unequivocal link with the patients from whom they are collected, recording of the identity of the person collecting the primary sample and the collection date, and, when relevant, recording of the collection time. Requirements for separating or dividing the primary sample when necessary, stabilization and proper storage conditions before collected samples are delivered to the laboratory. There shall be safe disposal of materials used in the collection process. 7 process requirements, 7.2 pre-examination processes, 5.4 pre-examination processes. 7.2.5 sample transportation, 5.4.5 sample transportation. Packaging of samples for transportation, ensuring the time between collection and receipt in the laboratory is appropriate for the requested examinations, maintaining the temperature interval specified for sample collection and handling. Any specific requirements to ensure integrity of samples, e.g., use of designated preservatives. 7 process requirements, 7.2 pre-examination processes, 5.4 pre-examination processes. 7.2.5 sample transportation, 5.4.5 sample transportation. When sample integrity is compromised and the safety of the carrier or the general public is placed at risk, The laboratory shall immediately notify the organization responsible for the transport of the sample. The laboratory shall take measures to mitigate the risk and to avoid recurrence. The laboratory shall establish the adequacy of sample transportation systems and shall periodically evaluate the systems. 7 process requirements, 7.2 pre-examination processes, 5.4 pre-examination processes. 7.2.6 sample receipt, 5.4.6 sample reception. The laboratory shall have a procedure for sample receipt and shall include the following: the unequivocal traceability of samples by request and labeling to a uniquely identified patient and, when applicable, the anatomical site, criteria for acceptance and rejection of samples, recording the date and time of receipt of the sample when relevant, recording the identity of the person receiving the sample, evaluation of received samples by authorized personnel, to ensure compliance with acceptability criteria relevant for the requested examination. Instructions for samples, specifically marked as urgent, which include details of special labeling, transport, any rapid processing method, turnaround times, and special reporting criteria to be followed, ensuring that all portions of the sample shall be unequivocally traceable to the original sample. 7 process requirements, 7.2 pre-examination processes, 5.4 pre-examination processes. 5.4.6 sample reception. Incorrect patient or sample identification, sample instability due to, for example, delay in transport, incorrect storage or handling temperature, inappropriate containers, and insufficient sample volume. 7 process requirements, 7.2 pre-examination processes, 5.4 pre-examination processes. 5.4.6 sample reception. When a compromised, clinically critical, or irreplaceable sample is accepted, the laboratory shall give consideration to the risk to patient safety. The final report shall indicate the nature of the problem and advise caution when interpreting results that can be affected. What to do, have, and look for in 7.2.1-7.2.6. Procedure for all pre-examination activities / instructions for pre-collection activities, records of accessibility to relevant personnel, procedure for managing oral requests for examinations, procedures for the collection and handling of primary samples, procedure for transportations of samples, monitoring records of temp during transportation, procedure and appropriate facilities for securing patient samples, ensuring sample integrity and preventing loss or damage during handling, preparation, and storage, request for examination, sample collection register / electronic sample rejection register. 7 process requirements, 7.2.7 pre-examination handling, preparation, and storage, 5.4.7 pre-examination handling, preparation, and storage. 7.2.7 1 sample protection. The laboratory shall have procedures and appropriate facilities for the following: securing patient samples, ensuring sample integrity, and preventing loss or damage during handling, preparation, and storage. 7 process requirements, 7.2.7 pre-examination handling, preparation, and storage, 5.4.7 pre-examination handling, preparation, and storage. 7.2.7 2 criteria for additional examination requests, 5.4.7 pre-examination handling, preparation, and storage. 7 process requirements, 7.2.7 pre-examination handling, preparation, and storage, 5.4.7 pre-examination handling, preparation, and storage. 7.2.7 3 sample stability, 5.4.7 pre-examination handling, preparation, and storage. The laboratory shall specify time between sample collection and performing the examination. When specifying this time, the laboratory shall take into consideration the stability of the analyte in a primary sample. The time between sample collection and performing the examination shall be monitored where relevant. What to do, have, and look for in 7.2.7. Procedure for sample protection, criteria for adding on tests, sample stability document. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. The laboratory shall select and use examination methods which have been validated for the intended use. The examination methods shall assure the clinical accuracy of the examination for patient testing. The performance specifications for each examination method relate to the intended use of that examination and its impact on patient care. All procedures and supporting documentation, such as instructions, standards, manuals, and reference data relevant to the laboratory activities, shall be kept up to date and readily available to personnel. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. The personnel shall follow the established procedures for examination. The identity of persons performing significant activities in examination processes, including PCT operators, shall be recorded in the laboratory. Authorized personnel shall periodically evaluate the examination methods provided by the laboratory. The examination methods shall be clinically appropriate for the requests received. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. 7.3.2 verification of examination methods, 5.5.1.2 verification of examination procedures. The laboratory shall have a procedure to verify that it can properly perform examination methods before introducing into use. The verification of examination methods shall ensure that the required performance, as specified by the manufacturer or method, can be achieved. The performance specifications for the examination method shall be confirmed through verification relevant to the intended use of the examination results. The extent of the verification of examination methods shall be sufficient to ensure the consistent validity of results relevant to clinical decision-making. The verification results shall be reviewed by personnel with the appropriate authorization and competence. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. 7.3.2 verification of examination methods, 5.5.1.2 verification of examination procedures. The laboratory shall record the results to indicate that the specified requirements were met. When a method is revised by the issuing body, the laboratory shall repeat its verification. The records of verification shall be retained as per the retention policy and shall include the following performance specifications to be achieved, results obtained, and a statement of whether the performance specifications were achieved and, if not, action taken. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. 5.5 1. 3 validation of examination procedures. The laboratory shall validate examination methods derived from laboratory designed or developed methods, from methods used outside their originally intended scope, from those validated methods which were subsequently modified. The validation shall be as extensive as is necessary. The validation shall provide objective evidence in the form of performance specifications to confirm that the specific requirements for the intended use of the examination have been fulfilled. The laboratory shall ensure that the extent of validation of an examination method is sufficient to ensure the consistent validity of results pertinent to clinical decision-making. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. 7.3.3 validation of examination methods, 5.5.1.3 validation of examination procedures. The validation results shall be reviewed by personnel with the appropriate authorization and competence. The validation results shall meet the specified requirements. When changes are proposed to a validated examination method, its clinical impact shall be reviewed and a decision shall be made as to whether to implement the modified method. The records of validation shall be retained by the laboratory and shall include the following: the validation procedure used, specific requirements for the intended use, determination of the performance specifications of the method, results obtained, and a statement on the validity of the method, detailing its fitness for the intended use. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. 7.3.4 Evaluation of Measurement Uncertainty, MU. 5.5.1.4 Measurement Uncertainty of Measured Quantity Values. The laboratory shall evaluate and maintain the MU of measured quantity values, compare the MU against performance specifications and document it, review MU evaluations regularly, document the rationale for exclusion from MU estimation documented examination procedures where estimation of MU is not possible or applicable, make the MU information available to laboratory users on request. Take into account other sources of uncertainty when users have inquiries on MU. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 7.3.4 Evaluation of Measurement Uncertainty, MU. 5.5.1.4 Measurement Uncertainty of Measured Quantity Values. The MU in the output quantity shall be estimated if the qualitative result of an examination relies on a test which produces quantitative output data and is specified as positive or negative based on a threshold. For examinations with qualitative results, the laboratory shall consider MU in intermediate measurement steps, or IQC results, which produce quantitative data for high-risk parts of the process. The laboratory shall consider MU when performing verification or validation of a method. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 7.3.5 Biological reference intervals and clinical decision limits, 5.5.2 Biological reference intervals or clinical decision values. The laboratory shall specify biological reference intervals and clinical decision limits. The source of biological reference intervals and clinical decision limits shall be recorded. The laboratory shall communicate the biological reference intervals and clinical decision limits to users when needed for interpretation of examination results. The biological reference intervals and clinical decision limits shall be periodically reviewed, and any changes communicated to users when changes are made to an examination or pre-examination method. The laboratory shall review the impact on associated biological reference intervals and clinical decision limits and communicate to the users. For examinations that identify presence or absence of a characteristic, the laboratory identified the biological reference interval, e.g., for genetic examinations. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 5.5.3 Documentation of examination procedures. The laboratory shall document its examination procedures. The examination procedures shall be written in a language understood by laboratory personnel. The examination procedures shall be available in appropriate locations. Any abbreviated document content, including working instructions, flow process diagrams, etc., shall correspond to the full procedure. Any information from product instructions for use incorporated into procedures. The reference provided when such information shall be incorporated. When the laboratory intends to make a validated change to an examination procedure which could affect interpretation of results, it shall explain its implications to users. Documented control shall be applied to all documents associated with the performance of examinations. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 7.3.7 Ensuring the validity of examination results, 5.6 Ensuring quality of examination results. 7. 3.7 1 General, 5.6.1 General. The laboratory shall have a procedure for monitoring the validity of results. The resulting data shall be recorded in such a way that trends and shifts are detectable. The laboratory shall apply statistical techniques to review the results. The laboratory shall plan and review the monitoring of the validity of results. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 7.3.7 2 Internal quality control, IQC, 5.6.2 Quality control. The laboratory shall have an IQC procedure for monitoring the ongoing validity of examination results according to specified criteria. The IQC procedure of the lab shall verify the attainment of the intended quality and ensures consistent validity pertinent to clinical decision-making. The intended clinical application of the examination shall be considered in the IQC procedure. The IQC procedure shall allow for the detection of either lot-to-lot reagent or calibrator variation, or both of the examination method. The laboratory procedure shall avoid lot change as either lot-to-lot reagent or calibrator change, or both. In IQC material on the same day/run, the use of third-party IQC material shall be considered, either as an alternative to or in addition to control material supplied by the reagent or instrument manufacturer. The laboratory shall select IQC material that is fit for its intended purpose. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 7.3.7 2 Internal quality control, IQC, 5.6.2 Quality control. When selecting IQC material, the laboratory shall consider the following: stability with regard to the properties of interest. The matrix is as close as possible to that of patient samples. The IQC material reacts to the examination method in a manner as close as possible to patient samples. The IQC material provides a clinically relevant challenge to the examination method, has concentrations levels at or near clinical decision limits, and when possible, covers the measurement range of the examination method. If appropriate IQC material is not available, the laboratory shall consider the use of other methods for IQC. The frequency of performing IQC shall be defined. The frequency of IQC shall be based on the stability and robustness of the examination method and the risk of harm to the patient from an erroneous result. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 7.3.7 Ensuring the validity of examination results, 7.3.7.2 Internal quality control, IQC, 5.6.2 Quality control. The resulting data shall be recorded to detect trends and shifts. Statistical techniques shall be applied to review the results. IQC data shall be reviewed with specified acceptability criteria. IQC data shall be reviewed at regular intervals and in a time frame, which allows a meaningful indication of current performance. If IQC fails the defined acceptability criteria, the laboratory shall prevent the release of patient results. The results from patient samples that were examined after the last successful IQC event shall be evaluated by the laboratory. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 7.3.7 3 External quality assessment, EQA, 5.6.3 Interlaboratory comparisons. The laboratory shall monitor its performance of examination methods. The monitoring shall be done by comparison with results of other laboratories. The laboratory shall participate in EQA programs appropriate to the examinations and interpretation of examination results, including PCT examination methods. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 7.3.7 3 External quality assessment, EQA, 5.6.3 Interlaboratory comparisons. The laboratory shall establish a procedure for EQA enrollment, participation, and performance for examination methods used, which addresses who processes EQA samples. EQA samples are processed by personnel who routinely perform pre-examination, examination, and post-examination procedures. The EQA programs selected by the laboratory have the effect of checking pre-examination, examination, and post-examination processes. The EQA programs selected by the laboratory provide samples that mimic patient samples for clinically relevant challenges. The EQA programs selected by the laboratory fulfill ISO/IEC 17043 requirements. 7 Process requirements, 7.3 Examination processes, 5.5 Examination processes. 5.6.3 Interlaboratory comparisons. When selecting EQA program, the laboratory shall consider the type of target value offered and how are the target values set when an EQA program is either not available or not considered suitable. Alternative methodology shall be used to monitor examination method performance. The rationale shall be justified for the chosen alternative and evidence provided of its effectiveness. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. 7.3.7 Ensuring the validity of examination results, 7.3.7.3 External Quality Assessment, EQA, 5.6.3 Interlaboratory Comparisons. The laboratory shall review EQA data at regular intervals with predefined acceptability criteria. The time frame of EQA data review shall allow for a meaningful indication of current performance. Where EQA results fall outside specified acceptability criteria, appropriate action shall be taken. Where EQA results fall outside specified acceptability criteria, the laboratory shall perform an assessment of whether the nonconformance is clinically significant as it relates to patient samples. When the assessment determines that the impact is clinically significant, the laboratory shall review the patient results that could have been affected. The laboratory shall consider the need for amendment and advised users as appropriate. 7 process requirements, 7.3 examination processes, 5.5 examination processes. 3.7 For comparability of examination results, 5.6.4 Comparability of examination results. The laboratory shall specify a procedure for establishing the comparability of results for patient samples throughout the clinically significant intervals. The laboratory shall record the results of comparability performed and its acceptability. The laboratory shall periodically review the comparability of results. Where differences are identified, the laboratory shall evaluate and act upon the impact of those differences on biological reference intervals and clinical decision limits. The laboratory shall advise users of any clinically significant differences in comparability of results. What did you have and look for in 7.3? Procedure for validation/verification of examination method, records of validation/verification of examination method, method validation/verification report, procedure for evaluation of measurement uncertainty, MU, records of MU, procedure for monitoring the validity of results, IQC and EQA, IQC and EQA/ILC records, PT plan, IQC analysis report, EQA/ILC analysis report. Procedure for comparability of examination results, records of comparability studies. 7.4 Post-examination processes, 7.4.1 Reporting of results, 5.8 Reporting of results. Examination results shall be reported accurately, clearly, unambiguously, and in accordance with any specific instructions in the examination procedure. The laboratory shall have a procedure to notify users when examination results are delayed. All information associated with issued reports shall be retained in accordance with management system requirements. 7.4 Post-examination processes, 7.4.1 Reporting of results, 5.8 Reporting of results. 7.4.1 2 Result review and release, 5.8 Reporting of results. The results shall be reviewed and authorized prior to release. The laboratory shall ensure that authorized personnel review the results of examinations and evaluate them against IQC. Available clinical information and previous examination results. The laboratory shall specify the responsibilities and procedures for how examination results are released for reporting, including by whom and to whom. 7.4 Post-examination processes, 7.4.1 Reporting of results, 5.8 Reporting of results. 7.4.1 3 Critical result reports, 5.8.2 Report attributes. When examination results fall within established critical decision limits, the laboratory shall notify the user or other authorized person as soon as relevant. In case of critical results, the laboratory shall document the actions taken, which includes date, time, responsible person, person notified, results conveyed, verification of accuracy of communication, and any difficulties encountered in notification. The laboratory shall have an escalation procedure for laboratory personnel when a responsible person cannot be contacted. 7.4 Post-examination processes. 7.4.1 Reporting of results. 5.8 Reporting of results. 7.4.1 4 Special considerations for results. 5.8.2 Report attributes. If the results are reported in a simplified way, there shall be an agreement with the user. Any information listed in 7, Ford 1, 6, and 7, Ford 1, 7 that is not reported to the user in simplified results shall be readily available when results are transmitted as a preliminary report. Is the final report always forwarded to the user? The records of all results which are provided orally, including details of verification of accuracy of communication, are kept by the laboratory. The laboratory shall always provide a report after oral reports. 7.4 Post-examination processes. 7.4.1 Reporting of results. 5.8 Reporting of results. 5.8.2 Report attributes. The laboratory management shall ensure that examination results with serious implications for the patient are not communicated to the patient without the opportunity for adequate counseling. Results of laboratory examinations used for epidemiology, demography, or other statistical analyses shall be anonymized. When anonymized results are used, all risks to patient privacy and confidentiality shall be mitigated. All anonymized results shall be used in accordance with any legal or regulatory requirements or both. 7.4 Post-examination processes. 7.4.1 Reporting of results. 5.8 Reporting of results. 7.4.1 5 Automated selection, review, release, and reporting of results. 5.9.2 Automated selection and reporting of results. The laboratory shall implement a system for automated selection, review, release, and reporting of results. If such automated system is implemented, the laboratory shall establish a procedure for the system. The criteria for automated selection, review, and release shall be specified, approved, readily available, and understood by personnel responsible for authorizing the release of results. The criteria shall be validated and approved before use. The criteria shall be regularly reviewed and verified after changes to the reporting system that can affect their proper functioning and place patient care at risk. 7.4 Post-examination processes. 7.4.1 Reporting of results. 5.8 Reporting of results. 7.4.1 5 Automated selection, review, release, and reporting of results. 5.9.2 Automated selection and reporting of results. The results selected by an automated reporting system for manual review shall be identifiable. The date and time of selection and review, as well as identity of the reviewer, shall be retrievable. Rapid suspension of automated selection. Review, release, and reporting shall be applied when necessary. The procedure for automated systems shall address automated selection, review, release, and reporting of results covered in 7.4 Post-examination processes. 7.4.1 Reporting of results. 5.8 Reporting of results. 7.4.1 6 Requirements for reports. 5.8.3 Report content. The examination reports shall include all information as per requirements of this clause of ISO 15189:2022 if any items of information required by this clause are not provided. The laboratory shall provide documented reasons for omitting such items. 7.4 Post-examination processes. 7.4.1 Reporting of results. 5.8 Reporting of results. 5.8.3 Report content. The time of primary sample collection shall be included in reports when necessary for patient care. The time of report release, if not contained in the report, shall be readily available when needed. The reports of results of examinations or parts of examinations performed by a referral laboratory shall include any information provided by consultants and the name of the laboratory performing the examinations. 7.4 Post-examination processes. 7.4.1 Reporting of results. 5.8 Reporting of results. 5.8.3 Report content. When applicable, A report shall include interpretation of results and comments on the following. 1. Sample quality and suitability that can compromise the clinical value of examination results. 2. Discrepancies when examinations are performed by different procedures, e.g., PCD, or in different locations. 3. Possible risk of misinterpretation when different units of measurement are in use regionally or nationally. For result trends or significant changes over time. 7.4 Post-examination processes, 7.4.1 Reporting of results, 5.8 Reporting of results, 5.9.3 Revised reports. The laboratory shall have procedures for the issue of amended or revised results. The procedures shall ensure that revised results are delivered only in the form of an additional document or data transfer and clearly identified as having been revised, and the date and patient's identity in the original report are indicated. The reason for the change recorded and included in the revised report when relevant. The user shall be made aware of the revision when a completely new report is issued. It uniquely identifies and it contains a reference and traceability to the original report that it replaces. When the reporting system cannot capture revisions, a record of such revisions kept by the laboratory. 7.4 Post-examination processes, 7.4.1 Reporting of results, 5.8 Reporting of results. 7.4.2 Post-examination handling of samples, 5.7.2 Storage, retention, and disposal of clinical sample. The laboratory shall specify the length of time samples are to be retained following examination and the conditions under which samples are to be stored. The laboratory shall ensure that after the examination, the patient and source identification of the sample are maintained. The suitability of the sample for additional examination is known. The sample is stored in a manner that optimally preserves suitability for additional examination. The sample can be located and retrieved. The sample is discarded appropriately. What did you have and look for in 7.4? Procedure for reporting the results, procedure for automated selection, review, release, and reporting of results, procedures for issue of amended or revised results, procedures for identification, access, storage, preservation and safe disposal of clinical samples, examination reports, retention records, sample disposal records. 7.5 Nonconforming work, new. 4.9 Identification and control of nonconformities. The laboratory shall establish a procedure for handling nonconforming work. Processes shall be followed when any aspect of laboratory activities or examination results do not conform to lab's own procedures, quality specifications, or the user requirements. The process shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for the management of nonconforming work are specified. Immediate and long-term actions shall be specified and based upon the risk analysis process established by the laboratory. Examinations shall be halted and reports withheld when there's a risk of harm to patients. 7.5 Nonconforming work, new. 4.9 Identification and control of nonconformities. The laboratory shall evaluate the clinical significance of the nonconforming work, including an impact analysis on examination results which were or could have been released prior to identification of the nonconformance. The procedure shall ensure that a decision is made on the acceptability of the nonconforming work. When necessary, examination results shall be revised and the users notified. The laboratory shall specify the responsibility for authorizing the resumption of work. The laboratory shall implement corrective action commensurate with the risk of recurrence of the nonconforming work. The laboratory shall retain records of nonconforming work and actions as specified above. What did you have and look for in 7.5? Procedures for identification and control of non-conformities, records of control of nonconformity work. 7.6 Control of data and information management, 5.10 Laboratory information management. 7.6.1 General, 5.10.1 General. The laboratory shall have access to the data and information needed to perform laboratory activities. 7.6 Control of Data and Information Management. 5.10 Laboratory Information Management. 7.6.2 Authorities and Responsibilities for Information Management. 5.10.2 Authorities and Responsibilities. The authorities and responsibilities shall be specified for the management of the information systems. The authorities and responsibilities specified for the maintenance and modification to the information systems that can affect patient care. Does the laboratory take ultimate responsibility for the laboratory information systems? 7.6 Control of Data and Information Management. 5.10 Laboratory Information Management. 7.6.3 Information Systems Management. 5.10.3 Information System Management. Is the information system used for the collection, processing, recording, reporting, storage, or retrieval of examination data and information validated by the supplier and verified for functionality by the laboratory before introduction? Are any changes to the information system, including laboratory software configuration or modifications to commercial off-the-shelf software, authorized, documented, and validated before implementation? Is the information system documented and the documentation readily available to authorized users? Is cybersecurity taken into account to protect the system from unauthorized access and to safeguard data against tampering or loss? Is the information system operated in an environment complying with supplier specifications? 7.6 Control of Data and Information Management. 5.10 Laboratory Information Management. 7.6.3 Information Systems Management. 5.10.3 Information System Management. In the case of non-computerized information system, does it provide conditions which safeguard the accuracy of manual recording and transcription? Is the information system maintained properly to ensure the integrity of the data and information? Recording of system failures and the appropriate immediate and corrective actions. Does the information system ensure that calculations and data transfers are checked in an appropriate and systematic manner? 7.6 Control of Data and Information Management. 5.10 Laboratory Information Management. 7.6.4 Downtime Plans. 5.10.3 Information System Management. Does the laboratory have planned processes to maintain operations in the event of failure or during downtime in information system? 7.6 Control of Data and Information Management. 5.10 Laboratory Information Management. 7.6.5 Off-Site Management. 5.10.3 Information System Management. Is the laboratory information system managed and maintained off-site or through an external provider? If yes, has the laboratory ensured that the provider or operator of the system complies with all applicable requirements of ISO 15189:2022? What did you have and look for in 7.6? LS User Manual, LS Authority Matrix, LS Validation/Verification Records, Cybersecurity System, LS Maintenance and Backup Records, LS Downtime Plans, LS Offsite Procedure and Records. 7.7 Complaints. 4.8 Resolution of Complaints. The laboratory establish a procedure for handling complaints. The complaint handling procedure shall include a description of the process for receiving, substantiating, and investigating the complaint and deciding corrective actions. The complaint handling procedure include tracking and recording the complaint, including the actions undertaken to resolve it. The complaint handling procedure shall ensure that appropriate action is taken. A description for complaints handling process shall be publicly available. 7.7 Complaints. 4.8 Resolution of Complaints. 7.7.2 Receipt of Complaint. 4.8 Resolution of Complaints. Upon receipt of a complaint, does the laboratory confirm whether the complaint relates to laboratory activities that the laboratory is responsible for? When confirmed that the complaint relates to activities that the laboratory is responsible for, the laboratory shall resolve the complaint. The laboratory shall gather all necessary information to determine whether the complaint is substantiated. The laboratory shall acknowledge receipt of the complaint and provide the complainant with the outcome and, if applicable, progress reports. 7.7 Complaints. 4.8 Resolution of Complaints. 7.7.3 Resolution of Complaint 4.8 Resolution of Complaints. The laboratory shall ensure that investigation and resolution of complaints do not result in any discriminatory actions. The person who resolves the complaint or reviews and approves the complaint should be independent of the subject of the complaint in question. Impartiality shall be maintained in complaint resolution and its review and approval. What did you have and look for in 7.7? Procedures for management of complaints or other feedback, complaints register, acknowledgement of complaints, complaints report. 7.8 Continuity and Emergency Preparedness Planning, new, 4.1.1.4N Laboratory Director. The laboratory shall identify the risks associated with emergency situations or other conditions when laboratory activities are limited or unavailable. The laboratory shall have coordinated strategy involving plans, procedures, and technical measures exist in the lab to enable continued operations after a disruption. The continuity and emergency preparedness plans shall be periodically tested. The lab shall exercise the planned response capability. The lab shall carry out mock drill for emergency preparedness. 7.8 Continuity and Emergency Preparedness Planning, new, 4.1.1.4N Laboratory Director. The laboratory shall establish a planned response to emergency situations, taking into account the needs and capabilities of all relevant laboratory personnel, provide information and training as appropriate to relevant laboratory personnel, respond to actual emergency situations, take action to prevent or mitigate the consequences of emergency situations, take actions appropriate to the magnitude of the emergency and the potential impact. What did you have and look for in 7.8? Procedure for Continuity and Emergency Preparedness Planning, Major Emergency Preparedness Plan, Records of Testing of Emergency Preparedness Plan, Communication of Emergency Preparedness Plan, Training Records of Emergency Preparedness Plan. Thank you.